So, pricing for Valve's upcoming Steam machine just got leaked at nearly $1,000, and everyone seems to be talking about it. But we should probably slow down and think about this leak for a second, because the leak is unreliable. The pricing is fake. I'll dive into that in a second, but what does this leak actually tell us if we read between the lines? What is the real story? The fact that international retailers are creating product pages means Valve is still on track for a Q1 2026 launch. In this video, I'd like to give reasons why we should dismiss the panic and talk about what this leak actually tells us. Spoiler, it's way more exciting than the fake price tag. If you're watching this because a headline terrified you with a 4-digit price tag, you're not alone. So yesterday, a Reddit user named Pajman64 found something weird hidden in the source HTML of a mid-sized Czech retailer called Smarty.cz. They found the prices for the Steam machine. The 512GB model is reported to be 19,826 Czech koruna, which is about $950, as well as a 2TB variant at 22,305 koruna, roughly $1,070. Within hours, another leaker found a similar number on alza.cz, another Czech retailer. The gaming scene immediately started freaking out, or at least they did over on Reddit. Comments like sticker shock or this is too expensive or Valve's nuts, you've probably seen them. The leak is completely unreliable, not take it with a grain of salt unreliable, but take it with as if the entire ocean dried up levels of salt. There are massive red flags with this leak, and it's also pretty useless at predicting what Americans will actually pay if it were real. And I'm going to show you exactly why with 3 red flags that I am seeing. There's something much more important hiding in the story, though. The fact that these retailers are suddenly building out their product pages, that's the sign of a launch happening very, very soon. We're in January 2026. This is a reminder that Valve has not yet changed the Q1 timeline they promised. So the leak tells us nearly nothing about what the Steam machine will actually cost in the US. The Czech market pricing is fundamentally bad as a predictor, but it does tell us that Valve is still on track for the Q1 2026 launch. So what actually happened here? Let's start with the facts. Smarty.cz is a real electronics retailer, and we're not talking about some random blog or website. They've got physical stores across the Czech Republic and did nearly 6 billion Czech koruna in revenue in 2024, and even acquired JRC, who was the former official PlayStation distributor for the Czech Republic. They're not a rinky-dink operation. Same with alza.cz. They're not small time either. So when Pajman64 found these prices hidden in Smarty's website source HTML, it wasn't like discovering made-up nonsense. It was finding some real data that a real international retailer had put into their database. Poorly hidden data, mind you. The actual product pages showed price not set and preparing to visitors, but if you opened up the dev tools and looked at the HTML, there they were. 950 for 512GB, 1,070 for 2TB in Czech koruna. Hours later, someone else found a similar entry at alza.cz with different numbers. Here's leak red flag number 1. These are placeholder listings. Retailers need prices in their systems early, not because they have official MSRP guidance from manufacturers, especially not for unreleased hardware, but because they need prices for their apps and stores. Their inventory tools, their backends, there's a whole host of reasons to need numeric values added in order for their website to function. It's most likely just a technical requirement. So what do retailers do? They guess. They just slap a number in there and update them later when they get the real information, or they're allowed to release the real info if they happen to have it. Video Card said something I think fits this perfectly when talking about a placeholder listing. If details are missing, we usually ignore any pricing or spec fields attached to the listing because the page is often just a placeholder. And guess what was missing from both Smarty.cz and alza.cz? EAN codes, UPC codes, and official product SKUs. Distributed data. All that stuff that indicates a retailer has real manufacturer information. They're just skeletal listings. And there's even more proof that these numbers are useless. Smarty and Alza quoted 2 completely different prices. There was at least a $100 gap between them. If these were official MSRPs handed down from Valve's distribution network, both the retailers would have had at least the same numbers or within a reasonable amount. Different prices means different guesses, rough estimates. Neither knew what the other was doing. But we have to beg the question, what if these prices are real? What if Valve is actually planning to sell the Steam machine for $950 in the Czech Republic at Smarty? It still doesn't really matter. Here's why. The Czech Republic is not the United States. Bit of a duh thing to say, I'm sorry, but it makes my second point for me. Red flag number 2. Valve hardware is consistently marked up from 15 to even 50% in the Czech market compared to US pricing. That's not a small gap, and we can prove it with the Steam Deck OLED right now. Valve's official US MSRP for the Steam Deck OLED is $549. That's what Americans are paying for the base model. Now let's look at what Czech retailers charged. 15,990 koruna to 19,990. When you convert to USD, that's between 766 and 958 for the exact same device that costs 550 and 650 in America. That's a 39 to 50% markup. Why? Multiple reasons. Distributors take margins. When you've got EU VAT, which is typically 20 to 21%, add that VAT to the retail price that you see in Czech stores. US prices don't include sales tax until checkout. There are currency conversion costs, import fees, retailer margins on top of all of that. Smarty.cz operates at about a 17% margin according to tech news outlet Classem Gamer. So when you see a conversion to $950 on a Czech retailer's website, you're not looking at a US MSRP, you're looking at a US MSRP plus up to 50% markup. That's completely irrelevant to us. If we take that $950 price tag and remove just the conservative 17% retailer margin that Smarty applies, you're looking at roughly $810. And that's still including any additional EU-specific costs and markups from selling in the region. The real story is that Czech prices for Valve hardware are consistently inflated. The leaked $950 price is essentially worst-case scenario pricing with heavy regional markup baked in. This is a red flag that has a silver lining. The US prices will not go over $1,000 and probably won't get close. In fact, if the leaks are real, and I don't think they are, the device is likely going to sell for around $650. Here's the final red flag though. The leak storage tiers are nonsensical. The leak showed the Steam machine with 512 at $950 and 2 terabytes at $1,070. That means you're getting 4 times the storage for only $120 more? Hot diggity dog. $120 for quadrupling your SSD capacity. Yes, please. Does that sound unreasonable to you in today's AI-inflated storage market? Let's check real-world component costs right now. 512GB NVMe drive currently costs between $60 and $100 retail. A 2 terabyte NVMe drive costs between $200 and $300 retail. So we're looking at a $140 to $240 component cost difference for nearly 4 times the storage. The leaked prices show only $120. That math only works if Valve absolutely negotiated their butts off and secured insane component pricing, which is possible, but it's extremely unlikely. What's more likely is whoever put those prices in the Smarty and Alza websites didn't have component costs in front of them. They were just slapping any old number in there that was higher than the last one. This is classic, I don't know, numbers. Combined with the missing product IDs, the complete unreliability of the Czech market pricing as an indicator for Valve's pricing. The storage tiers are just another piece of evidence that Smarty and Alza didn't have real pricing information. They had their engineers' estimates. So the 3 red flags, there's one clear conclusion. If you're enjoying this video, liking and subscribing to this channel is the right choice to make. Probably. I try to be reliable, and I refuse to make doom and gloom content. I make videos about this stuff because I find it genuinely interesting, and I'm hoping you do too. If you want more analyses like this, hit that subscribe button. And if you want to see videos early and support the chaos that is my growing community, there's channel memberships available. But really, just subscribing helps a lot. Thank you for everyone who's already subscribed and stuck around. Genuinely, it means a lot to me. Also, as an announcement, I have a new membership tier that provides access to a private Discord channel. If you're interested in helping me build that community out, hanging out sometimes, talking about random stuff, maybe gaming, check out if you're interested. Okay, so the pricing leak is basically garbage. Think about how retail works. The fact that multiple international retailers independently were simultaneously getting their systems ready, is that a coincidence? No. We are during the Q1 launch window. Retailers are preparing their infrastructure. It all aligns. Q1 2026 runs through March 31st. Valve said the Steam machine would launch in Q1. And look what we're seeing. International retailers preparing their infrastructure. Think about the timeline. You announce a product. Valve did that. You give a launch window, you give them product specs and other basic info, and then you say, stay tuned for more, and go silent. That's where we are with Valve. Then the timeline arrives and retailers build their pages. They test their pre-order systems, they create the infrastructure, and that's exactly what we're seeing happen right now in January. for a Q1 launch that hasn't been communicated that they've changed it. The real story about this leak is not, oh no, this is expensive. The real story is, oh yes, this is still happening. The Steam Machine appears to still be on track. Retailers wouldn't be prepping if launch details were changed. They've got real confidence in the Q1 2026 release because Valve has not communicated anything else. The device is coming. We may be days or weeks from official announcements. And that's way more exciting than a fake price tag hidden behind a Czech retailer's website. Things with Valve seem to still be on track, and we're maybe even days away from an official announcement about the real pricing. So ignore the panic, ignore the clickbait headlines about $1,000 pricing. The real news is that Steam Machine is coming very soon, and that is what is actually exciting. What would you do first if you got a Steam Machine in your hands? Are you planning to pre-order it when it becomes available? Let me know in the comments below, and thanks for sticking around. Subscribe if you want more analyses like this. I'll see you next time.